And ladies and gentlemen, just when you thought we couldn't have taken, I don't know, I lost my train of thought. Holy shit.
No news of consequence happened this week.
I was trying to make a joke about that, but I couldn't think of anything because it's such shit.
Yeah.
What a shitty week. Whoa.
Yep.
I guess let's just not get rushing into it. Let's take our time. I apologize for that bad joke. We are in the middle of the Putin saga right now, and
It's something. I like to think of it as more the Zelensky saga.
ooh, go on, because Zelensky is quite the character.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah.
Zelensky is the president of Ukraine, who, in case your head is under a rock or you're an empath, I guess we'll get to that later, has been invaded by Russia. Have you seen that on Twitter?
No, but please go on, because I can only imagine.
No, we'll get to that.
Shit.
That's like a more in the weeds bit. But Russia has started a multi-front invasion into Ukraine, both from Russia itself as well as with troops coming in through Belarus and Crimea. And I've actually had to argue with people on Twitter, reminding them that Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014 with Russian soldiers because people have already forgotten.
Yeah, wasn't that like literally right after the Olympics? Like the Winter Olympics they hosted.
Like immediately. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just someone just like, there's no troops in, this was before the invasion. Somebody said something like, there's no troops actually in Ukraine right now. I'm just like, Crimea is right there. Last I checked, Crimea still belongs to Ukraine. Whether you agree with that or not, that is how the international lines are drawn. Russia does not own Ukraine yet. They're sure trying to.
So I think we should start from the top, because I think a lot of people were just apathetic to the idea of like the war boners a lot of media had when we didn't know what was going to happen, and now that it has happened, I think some people need to get reminders of, we've been waiting on this for like, what, 3 weeks?
Yep.
Yeah.
At least 3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, the last 3 weeks have been leading to this. And besides the war boner media covering it, I feel like lots of people who aren't directly impacted by it, of course, brushed it off. But
absolutely,
we've had this border dispute between Russia and Ukraine for 3 weeks. You may have heard of it. We're not going to shut up about it. And
I mean, it's not even really a dispute. There's not that's been Russia's thing, is they're not saying that parts of Ukraine should belong to Russia. Their argument is the same one as it was when they invaded Crimea, is that there are ethnically Russian people in Ukraine that are being otherwise discriminated against for their being ethnically Russian.
Yes.
And that the Russian military needs to intervene in order to protect these ethnic Russians.
Because in Europe, their race is very different from American race.
It is. It's much harder to conceptualize as an American, especially because, and it's not just like a Russia-Ukraine thing, it's all over. There's the whole reason that there's the situation between, I think it's Croatia and Serbia, is because they view themselves as ethnically distinct groups, even though they're right next to each other.
I mean, it's why
look like there's not a visual distinction to immediately tell them apart like the American concept of race has.
Yeah. There's also, in Africa, after the British kind of ruined all their borders because colonialism is a win. What is there? India, because India is just amazing, and how some Indian people are more Indian than other Indian people. So, high five to all the British colonies ruining relations.
Yeah.
So, I don't know where to begin with Russia invading Ukraine.
Yeah, so we start at the front.
Yeah.
On I don't know is it the 22nd, I guess, technically, given how time zones are.
Yeah.
Russia invaded the regions of Donetsk and Luhansk in the far east of Ukraine at the border between Russia and Ukraine. Those are the two specific regions where Russia was making these claims of ethnic Russians being in some way violated, as well as some other bullshit. They claim there's like claims of a car bomb that went off that was pretty clearly fabricated. Um, they claimed that they retaliated with a tank shell at someone who was in some way provoking them, and it's just like clearly not the case. There's a lot of things that were floating around in the lead up to the invasion that were trying to create the pretense that they needed, and it was probably honestly effective enough for what they needed to try and sell it to their own people.
Well, they didn't sell it quite well enough because last time I checked, there's a lot of major Russian protests going on in the major cities.
There definitely is. We'll see how it goes. Russia is no stranger to protests. They actually have them fairly often, and it's the unfortunate reality that Putin seems to recognize that you can have a protest, but if you just ignore them for a couple of days, eventually they either get bored and go home, or eventually they just run out of supplies and they can't afford to stay there. You know, these are still people with jobs and families. And if you're protesting all day, you're not working, you're not making money, you know, you can't put food on the table. And he's very well aware of that. So while it was good to see that the protests came out, I don't honestly expect them to amount to anything.
Oh, they won't, because let's face it.
Look at the protests that Belarus had against Lukashenko after their fraudulent election that amounted to literally nothing.
Yeah. I mean, there's just such a class disparity nowadays that most protests, unless you get like enough higher ups to agree with you, not much gets done.
Yep. Particularly the military. There would have to be some change of tides within the military of these countries, because that's what allows these autocratic leaders to exert the power that they claim to have.
Yes.
And we are starting to see that to a point in Ukraine now. It's always going to be hard to tell what is truth, what has been stretched from the truth, and what is just out and out propaganda or misinformation being spread, because there's been a lot of all of that coming out of this. Particularly, you know, this is one of the first, arguably it is like the only European war to happen in the age of the internet, and it makes it very transparent, but also much easier for lies to be disseminated.
Yes.
You know, I've been seeing at least on social media, particularly on Twitter, stories of Russian soldiers invading Ukraine, no idea what they're actually doing, and then allegedly, when they learn what they're doing, they surrender. I've seen stories of Russian troops that were ordered to go deep into Ukraine and then didn't actually have the materials to do that, and they literally run out of gas.
Have you seen
that true? I don't know.
Have you seen the video of the tank that was like found on the side of the road because the Russian soldiers in it had no gas because they got lost?
Yeah. Yep.
And then some guy, this absolute chat of a man, comes by and is like, "Hey, do you guys need a tow back to Russia?"
Yep. I saw that one. That was great.
What a savage. 10 out of 10.
I want that to be real so badly.
I know.
But at the same time, it's also super easy to fake a short video like that.
Of course.
Same thing that we've been seeing. There's two other things that are much more notable, gotten much more social media attention, and both of them have almost certainly some amount of falsity to them. The first one that's gotten massively publicized is the Russian battleship fuck off thing.
Oh, yeah.
Where the island of those people actually surrendered. Because, of course you fucking do. It's a Russian battleship and you're a tiny little island. You're not gonna... It doesn't benefit you in any way to throw your own lives away. There's a lot of people who have this preconceived idea of what war is because they've seen like Saving Private Ryan and a bunch of Hollywood movies. And when you have people that are just like, you know, maybe I don't want to die today. Or, maybe we don't want to carpet bomb the country that we're trying to invade. People can't conceptualize that as still being a war, so they default to it being not a war or somehow less serious than it is.
I think we've over fetishized the brutality of war a lot more. Because, like,
Absolutely.
what is war other than a whole bunch of different engagements and interactions that bring about a lot of unfortunate change?
Yeah.
Um,
The really good one today, let me see if I can get it pulled up here, was a person who was asking the question of basically just like, well, why don't we just airlift all the Ukrainian people out?
Holy shit.
Like, I'm sorry, this is still their homes. And then that's literally what they said, is like, why don't we just get all the Ukrainian people out and just let Russia have it and stop this unnecessary war? And it's just like,
What?
do you not understand what you're saying? And so we responded with that, with something like, because this is their home, they live there, they don't just want to give it up. And they responded with something like, well, that just sounds like nationalism.
What?
And it's just like, really, this is what you're gonna do today?
You're going to go.
Eventually they realized how dumb what they're saying, where they put out an apology for it, but it's just like, come on, come
Dude.
on.
So you're saying we as Americans should have just moved the fuck out of the 13 colonies and just head west instead of fighting the British?
Yeah, we'll be airlifted out to Mexico, and then it won't be a problem anymore.
Yeah, dude, totally. Because what's the point in fucking fighting for something, your culture, your beliefs, why not just start a whole new life as if that's not hard,
Yep.
Because you don't know what country's got amnesty. You don't know where the fuck's going to be able to support you with your family. You don't know what job life is going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a really ignorant, trying to solve everything statement.
Yep. The other part of it, the other thing that I've seen more than once, and again, who knows if this is actually true? If it is true, it's horrific and clear violations of wartime agreements. But allegedly, there are Russian prisoners of war who have been captured who are using Ukrainian uniforms.
I heard
It's a
about
pretty
that as
clear
well.
war crime. Is it real or not, or is it something that's just circulating on social media? Who's to say, right?
I mean, that's the problem.
It's
Because
it is murky when you have all of these reports coming in through social media, propped up by social media, because honestly they help support the narrative that we want to from a pro-Ukrainian standpoint. So of course they're going to get spread like wildfire once they hit Western social media accounts, and it becomes really hard to differentiate what's legit and what's not.
my thing is just that it's really interesting to see a war on social media. I've been fucking glued to my phone because of it.
Hmm?
Because you have so many perspectives. And you know what? I'm more inclined to believe anybody who's actually Ukrainian than, say like any journalist at the moment, because they're selling this war. The Ukrainians are living it.
Yep.
And it's so interesting to see the different techniques of framing these stories people have gone through. Like what you said with that video we were talking about, the guy telling that tank to get towed to Russia.
Yep.
As much as I want to believe it, and I think it's hilarious as a joke,
Oh yeah.
we can't verify that's real. It's so
Yeah.
easy. Even then, for all we know, it could easily have just been like the subtitles were fucking doctored to something else.
Oh yeah. I don't
Because
speak Russian or any non-English language with any semblance of fluency, so I have no idea.
sí, es no bueno, mi amigo. Um, it's just so fucked up to see
Yep.
like how, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. As a guy with media degree, it's so interesting to me, but it's also fucked up to see how palpable reality is right now, especially when we're like
Yep.
a continent degree of separation from all this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other one that really stood out to me was it's been like fetishized at this point, literally, the Ghost of Kiev,
Oh yes,
which is incredibly badass if true, but also probably not true, or is a truth that's been stretched into something bigger than it is.
I
This
could.
idea that there's a single Ukrainian fighter pilot in a MiG-29 that's taken down a variety of Russian aircraft in air-to-air combat is appealing to a lot of our innate ideas of what war and glory in combat is, you know,
Yeah.
against the odds, fighting against the enemy and prevailing dominantly is like literally out of a movie. And it isn't at all surprising to me if we learn that there is some semblance of truth to it, like with the Snake Island thing. That radio communication that was distributed was actually said. MiG-29s have actually been shooting down Russian planes in air-to-air combat. Is it one guy? Was it actually over this period of time that they said? Who's to say when it's all just social media and yeah.
Yeah. It's like that old anecdote about going on a fake trip to the beach. What you do is you Google image search a picture of a beach, and then you just say, "Hey guys, I'm at the beach," and suddenly everybody thinks you're at the beach. It's very palpable, and framing wise, it's very hard to disprove unless you are actually at that beach. And that's been a lot of the war coverage. You know, there's like credible stuff. Like, did you hear about Chernobyl?
I heard that they took it, but beyond that, no.
Chernobyl's been taken. That's pretty easy to, you know, because who the fuck wants to fight for Chernobyl? That place is a fucking disaster.
Like, I don't really get why. I'm sure it's a coincidental thing. They took it because it happens to be on the border of Ukraine and Belarus, and that's where they invaded from. They like.
Oh yeah, that's exactly why I think they took it. By
default.
Yeah.
Because like nobody wants it's a wasteland for like the next 100 years still. You can't live there.
Did you hear radiation is going up there as well because of all the military movement?
Oh, really? I'm not surprised. Probably like all the dust and stuff.
All the dust, yes. It's exactly it.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. That's so fucking stupid to take Chernobyl, but I get it.
Yeah, they don't really have a choice. You know? That is where the roads are.
Yeah.
That was the other thing that's actually been coming in that has been mostly truth with a bit of misinformation coming in it, is that the equivalent to like the Ukrainian Department of Transportation was looking for ways to remove the road signs that they have to make it harder for Russians to actually figure out where the hell they need to go. And the bit that was going around that was not at all true was that they're saying that they had changed the road signs to say "fuck off" on them, which would have been great.
Yeah.
But all it was like a digital mock-up that the DOT did with like, yeah, we wish we could do this. Wouldn't that be great if all the Russians just saw our Ukrainian signs and they just told them all to fuck off and go home? But what the truth of it is what they did is they went out there and they cut down as many of these signs as they could to just get rid of them.
Yeah.
So you're Russian on a major road and you come up to an intersection. Which way do you go? You have to rely on your maps now. You're not having the backing of the entire transportation system that underpins the roads you're using to help you out. And given what we've been hearing about some of the I don't even know what you call it, problems that the Russian military has been having as they've done this invasion, and how relatively ineffective it was compared to what they seemed to have expected it to be, not being forced to rely exclusively on the information that you have from your superiors isn't the most convincing thing anymore.
Of course. So, one thing I did want to touch about while we're talking about all this Russian-Ukraine stuff, I would like to extend a formal message to the American people. Shut the fuck up about the draft. Shut the fuck up about World War III, you egotisticals son of bitches.
Nobody cares that you're having an anxiety attack because you're reading the news.
Like, legitimately, it's so amazing to me to see a lot of people try selling the World War III or draft angle, because it's just so fucking egotistical to try putting yourself in this situation when America has nothing to do with it at this point. The best we can do is fucking sanctions because of treaties, NATO.
And they are incredibly effective.
Oh yeah, the ruble.
I think we'll get to that. We'll get that in a second here, but Biden has made it blatantly clear that there is zero interest in having U.S. soldiers on the ground in Ukraine.
Yes.
That's not going to happen. They will have U.S. soldiers on the ground up to the millimeter of the border between that NATO country and Ukraine, but not actually in Ukraine itself.
Yes.
He understands the threat of what could actually happen here if further international conflicts broke out, and that is not something that they have an interest in participating in.
Yeah. There's so much to this, and like it helped me understand that there are people who think they know politics, and they it more or less stems from social issues. I like to refer to that as like a hobbyist political stance. And then there's like the actual like thinking your way through what would be the most logical conclusion for a lot of this politics stuff, where you can like reference history and understand relations between countries that aren't America. And
let me plead to the internet here. Twitter is not a news source. Don't use it as one.
I mean, it kind of is, but it's a very terrible.
It can be an aggregate for other news sources.
That's it.
But like every news company has their own website, and what a lot of people do is that they just see people talk about stuff and they assume it's accurate because for the most part it is. But then you get to these highly contested issues and the question becomes much less clear.
Of course. Oh. What a nightmare.
Apparently, this is a relatively new piece of news coming from actual news sources. Ukraine President Zelensky has agreed to hold talks with Russia at the Belarus border.
What's the talks gonna be? Like, bro, stop throwing the missiles in my face.
Given how effective the Ukrainian military has been at repelling Russian forces from their capital of Kiev, and that's been the big line that I've been saying a lot from people who seem to know what they're talking about, whether or not they actually do, who's to say, is that by all accounts, the on the ground accounts that people are making is that the Russian forces expect this to be much shorter than it is. Like what happened in Crimea.
Yeah.
They pushed in. It was like literally overnight. It was just like, yep, Russian soldiers, and the people who didn't want to stay there left, and the people who did want to stay there stayed. But it was just overnight. They invaded, and that was kind of it.
So it's almost like they gave too much of a warning sign with staying at the border for 3 weeks, giving them plenty of time to prepare.
Well, see, that's the thing, though, is that, and this is what Biden has been doing, and all of, I guess, be technically like the Five Eyes, the international intelligence community at large, what they've been doing that's been highly effective is just being like not hiding any of this. Just like, oh, you're on the Ukraine border? Cool. We're going to tell them you're on the Ukraine border.
Yeah.
And it's effective. Otherwise, we wouldn't know that was happening if it hadn't been highly publicized by all the intelligence communities of the world. The only reason we know is because of satellite footage that we could see it happening. And we could see them calling their bluffs when they're just like, oh no, we're actually pulling troops out. It's just like, no, dude, we have the satellite footage. We can see that your numbers aren't decreasing.
That's funny.
So we literally are just like, it's an intelligence game, right? If you don't leave them anything to hide, they can't make it look smaller than it is. It's not just a training exercise. You're not just going to help out these ethnic Russians. You're staging an invasion. There's no secret about it. So, what's the economic side of it, though? Because this is pretty big. There has been massive, not just sanctions, because sanctions are one tool that is very useful in international diplomacy, particularly with the intent going on right now to not have open conflict between any more countries than is required, is that the big news that came, I don't know if it was like tonight, last night, I guess, technically into this morning in our time zones, was Russia's removal from SWIFT.
Wait, what?
International. Yes. Yeah, they did it.
They did it.
The two largest Russian banks were removed from SWIFT.
Okay, so can we
which
explain
means
Swift for
that the
everybody at home?
world needs to understand what the fuck Swift is.
Yeah.
Swift is the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. Legally a Belgian cooperative society providing services related to the execution of financial transactions and payments between banks worldwide. It's basically like the phone lines equivalent that allows banks across the world to talk to each other and coordinate the movement of money from one bank to another. So Russia being cut off from SWIFT means that their two largest banks can only handle money between themselves. You can't have transactions going in or out of Russia effectively.
I cannot believe they actually took him off Swift.
Yeah,
That's
and like
so
that doesn't
crazy.
sound like a lot, but it's huge. And let me see
That's oh
let's look up
crazy. Oh my
the big
god.
news after the oh, that's not nearly granular enough. Google Google hasn't updated the value of the ruble in a couple of days. It's unfortunate.
Well, for obvious reasons, I'm sure.
So the big news that was going around was that after the couple of rounds of sanctions that had happened, was that the value of the ruble, which was already particularly deflated due to the same international uh, logistics and economic situations that have been happening because of COVID and supply chains being damaged,
Woof.
but it had shrank by about 50% of what it was even then, to then put it relative to the worth of the US dollar lower than the Roebuck, which
Yeah.
is the currency used in Roblox.
Okay.
So a Roblox dollar was worth more in US dollars than a Russian ruble.
So I'm seeing currently right now a Russian ruble is 0.012 of a US
Yes.
dollar. Almost a
Yes.
little more than a penny.
Yes. And
God.
I believe I don't know how accurate that actually is, because they're with Russia being cut off from SWIFT, it's like Great Depression kinds of things where everybody who has money in the banks is looking to get all of their money out as fast as they can.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
Yep. So we're really going to have to wait and see come like Monday when markets actually open to see what the value is. But it was 0.012 of a dollar going into the weekend, and it's been kind of just holding there. If it holds there, I will be shocked.
What's the actual value of a Roebuck right now?
I believe it's the same. It's 0.0125.
Oh shit, that's really sad.
Yeah.
So, the United Federation of Robux, coming soon.
Basically.
Yeah.
Exploiting children game devs in a country near you.
Hell yeah, dude.
Have you seen those videos?
No, but go
I know they
on.
make the rounds every once in a while. So this is just a quick sidebar. With the way that Roblox is
Yeah.
set up, anybody can develop like sort of mini games for the platform that then the other users can pay with their Robux to access. And of course, whoever the company that actually owns it takes their cut all along the way. Um, but what ends up happening is because the Roblox in general is used primarily by children, to no one's surprise, children also end up being the people who primarily develop for it.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is that there ends up being enough money in it that I don't want to call them companies, but people looking to exploit child labor and make money along the way come in and basically exploit actual children for either their concepts or their work, and then just don't pay them because there's no system for recourse.
Makes
So you can
sense.
have children playing Roblox when what they're actually doing is just actually developing games for that platform and not actually making any money for it, even though they're doing a job. And worse than that is, of course, the whole predatory side of it with, these are children and they're interacting with adults who are acting in a supervising role, allegedly. And the whole thing gets, it tends to trend toward pedophilia. Who could have guessed?
I thought this was a nice side tangent to like lighten the mood after you know,
Yeah,
the
I
whole
wish.
war horrors that are going on right now. Oh well.
So the ruble is, I believe this marks the lowest it has ever been in history after this.
Really?
Currently, yeah, it is worth less than it has been at any point in history.
Ouch. That's saying something. That's a
And
party
of course,
foul.
all of the stocks that are tied to it, they have it, the Moscow index, whatever that actually means, is down by an equally proportional amount. So even though the ruble went from 0.014 to 0.012, all of their stock markets, and those are tiny numbers, so it's hard to put it in perspective, their stocks are all going down by the same amount as well, like 30% hit across the board.
Wow.
And now you have people who are hearing that their bank just got cut off from Swift, knowing that the ruble is going to fall even more, desperately trying to go to whatever ATM or banks that they can find to withdraw all their money. And now ATMs are running out of money.
Yeah.
Because, like with any currency, even if it's backed by gold, you're not going to give people the actual gold bars. You give them paper currency that is representative of that. But the paper currency is never going to be, there's never going to be enough paper currency like physically in circulation to account for all of the theoretical money held up in banks and investments. It's just kind of how it goes.
That makes sense why they're freaking out so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really not good. And the, average Russian is going to be absolutely hurt by it to a pretty substantial degree. So here's this is actually, let me see if I can get this here. That's cool. Google has a little index thing on it that lets you pick a time point and compare how the currency was to what it is now.
Oh no.
So like you can very easily just like go and click on the chart, pick a time. So the last peak was January 2020, down 26% through to today.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually super convenient and helpful. Because once you get into these tiny numbers, you have these pretty substantial dips and drops, but because you can't change the tiny number to a different tiny number, you can't really represent those. So you need these representative comparisons of like partial dollars of partial dollars.
Of course.
Yeah, it gets messy. Good job, Google. There's a reason we don't use Internet Explorer anymore.
Or Mozilla Firefox.
Mm-hmm. And so the other big piece of news today was that Putin has ordered his military command to put the country's nuclear deterrence forces on high alert.
Wow.
Which doesn't really seem to mean a lot. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it seems to be almost entirely posturing from what I've seen on like actual foreign policy experts talking about it. No one wants to launch a nuclear weapon, even if you're Putin. Like, Putin is an egotistical megalomaniac autocrat, but he still doesn't want to get nuked himself.
Thou shalt not nuke, lest thine be nuked back.
Yep.
I'm like thoroughly depressed right now.
It is. NPR has your back, though.
Oh, thank you, NPR.
Russia's attack on Ukraine means there's a stressful news cycle ahead of us. The
Oh my
reality of
God.
conflict is always a shock to the system. Here are 5 ways to cope.
I hate that. It's been on my Twitter feed, like, following me.
It's so dumb. Like, okay. Number 1, turn off social media. That should be the first one.
Whoa.
They have all these dumb things here. And it's just like, no. They have log off as the last one. Like, no, that's the first one. If you see something that doesn't directly affect you and it makes you upset, don't look at it anymore. It's not a big concept.
You see, Kyril, they can't give you that up front because you're not going to read the rest of the article.
It's not even an article. I mean, I guess it is technically an article.
It's a
They
listicle.
put it on a fucking Twitter thread.
Yeah. So what's the next one?
I'm not gonna say any names here because people have already been dogpiling on social media enough. But you can really see the self-centeredness of it, to not recognize of just like, okay, this upsets me, I shouldn't engage with it. Somebody said, presumably this is not satirical in any way, as far as I can tell, because they've been responding to almost every comment to them, and there's hundreds of them at this point.
Oh no.
They say, for the deeply empathetic person, being aware of the brutalities happening to fellow humans, even though on the other side of the world, can be stressful and traumatic. I have 6 parrots. If one of them is injured, the other 5 are deeply upset over it. It affects their health.
What the fuck?
Like, turn off the news.
Yeah.
If you are a person who is able to recognize your own problem, like, I think that's fair to call that like an issue of mental health at that point. You know, if you are so deeply affected by seeing the news that it causes you to have physical symptoms, turn off the news. Start with that and go from there.
Nah, dude. How are you going to get your great NPR content?
Yeah.
By the way, NPR, please hire us. We'd be a great podcast to add to your arsenal of already great content. I could see us being hired by NPR.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against it, honestly. I like, particularly NPR's radio stuff is really good. It's
exactly.
really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just their online stuff tends to get kind of desperate sometimes with fluff like this.
Oh, yeah, I do get the feeling. I don't know, dude. This is very much targeted at a certain demographic of people. And the demographic of people who don't already have these skills, I don't think would follow NPR.
Nope. I just wish that they wouldn't have framed it from the perspective of current events. Just like news cycles can be stressful. Here's what we recommend from a personal health perspective. But the way that they very intentionally framed it as this thing that's happening is the cause of the cycle, so here's how to take care of yourself, is like, come on.
Hey, once it's all over,
see this coming?
Once it's all over, you can go back to overly indulging in media and the news.
Mm-hmm. Plus, if you write the article more generically, you can bring it up every time something that might potentially stress someone out comes up.
Oh my God.
Link the old article.
So here's the thing. I believe I've seen this before when COVID first started.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain I've seen articles like this. Okay.
Well, I guarantee it was.
Yeah.
But this is particularly talks about the Russian invasion of Ukraine in their opening, so I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's just like a template they have.
Boy.
And they just fill in the blanks. Have you ever been legitimately like upset about the news cycle? Like stressed out too much?
No, not to the point of like anxiety. I've been very angry at things that have happened, but not anxious.
I agree. I don't think I've ever had like I'm an anxious person. I do get anxiety. Never believe I've gotten that from the news.
No. This is the other thing that seems I'm actually like, God forbid I'm reading the article now.
Oh God.
And the article itself is actually not bad.
Well, I'm sure.
Like what, 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph details, maybe it's been edited since, I don't know. But it details places you can donate to. Like, you feel bad, here's how you can make a difference. Why is that not the very first thing in their stupid fucking Twitter thread?
Because
doesn't get impressions, I guess.
Yo, I've actually I'm not saying this was something that was taught to me in journalism school, but I've noticed a pattern when I read articles that they always leave the call for action at the very end so it doesn't interrupt your reading flow.
Generally, yes.
Huh.
Brief interruption here as the potential for esports history is going on. Uh, Counter-Strike right now is on one of their majors of the year,
Hmm.
Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, and they are on to like overtime round number 5.
Oh shit.
It is like a dead heat for a grand final. It is close.
You know, if you want to get away from all this sad news stuff, we can talk about the video game news that's been happening.
Yeah, we probably will here.
Yeah.
This is hilarious. This is going on for so long that they're showing highlights from earlier in the match
Ouch.
because it's been like hours at this point, and it's a best of 5, and they're only on map 2.
Woof.
That's amazing. One of them must have taken a timeout or something. That's why they keep doing this. I have it muted, but I think that's hilarious. I'm like trying to pull up the stuff on Twitter, and it's just people talking about how this game of Counter-Strike is never going to end.
Isn't that the best game of Counter-Strike then?
Oh yeah, I mean Counter-Strike's great. There's a reason it's been around for so long. It's very like it doesn't really have a sports equivalent. You know, I guess I would probably compare it to like basketball, where you don't really need anything to do it. It's just very raw sports. Counter-Strike is just raw esports. It's some dudes on a computer doing some crazy shit. That's Counter-Strike.
I'm a little upset that I was born a little too early for like the esports like in my academia life. To like,
Right?
yeah,
I really wish that would have been more of a thing. I would have loved to have been on like a Counter-Strike or a Rainbow Six college team. That would have been cool.
that just like it's a cool bragging right.
Yeah. And it's just fun, you
Yeah.
know? You know, they have intramural sports for so many different things in like sports. Having something for esports would have been really fun.
The problem was we went to a D3 school, Kyril.
Yeah. You say that though. I play a lot of Rainbow Six. Who could have imagined? And I see kids from college teams from much smaller colleges that you'd expect.
Oh
There's, let me see if I can remember it. There's one group that I run into a lot that 5-stack in one of the ranks that I play at. And it's just like, oh man, you guys are so bad. I could have dominated at college esports. What the hell? I got gypped.
no. You wish you could have been the mean old jock destroying everybody's career.
Yeah, I would have shit on these kids. It would have been great.
That's unfair. You could have been that douchebag in the line for the KC.
Right?
You could have had your music playing way too loud at night in the dorms. God. Okay, that's enough Olivet humor. Well, actually, I think that's like in any college, really.
Yeah, it's the universal experience.
Pretty
Let's talk
much.
video games though.
I like video games.
So, do you want to talk? Let's do the releases that happened this week.
Oh, you mean our background for this episode? Because yes, it's Elden
Oh,
Ring.
is it?
Yes.
Yeah, Elden Ring is of course the big one. It's not the only one though, somehow. But yeah, definitely the big one. And the thing that is most surprising about it, I'm pulling up the Steam page right now, is that let me see if I'm just curious if the reviews are more popular. Why did it take me to fucking Yu-Gi-Oh? What?
Trying to tell
They
you
are.
something.
They're up to mostly positive right now. So at release, they were mixed, which is surprising because the Metacritic for it, let me see if it's still there, was like 97, something like that.
Huh.
97. And the user score is the same way. It's 7.6 versus 72% on Steam right now, because apparently the big problem is that there are performance issues, particularly on PC, that people have been having that reviewers didn't have. It is like something with the day one patch that they put out that resulted in really bad performance. And I think I actually know what it is.
What is
I
it?
think this is really interesting if it turns out to be the case. Do you know about the PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox's systems that they have for high speed storage, like streaming from the storage device, like straight to being displayed on the screen?
No, but that sounds like it can exist.
It is one of the things that Sony in particular focused on a lot with the PlayStation 5, and it's one of the reasons that there hasn't been expansion for it really at all yet. I think they have some official ones now, but the particular type of storage that the PlayStation uses is very, very high speed. And in order for it to function correctly, there are games that have to be made with that in mind. Because rather than like before, where the game itself is stored on a hard drive, and you have to take the piece from the hard drive, move it to the RAM, load it in the RAM, render it in the RAM, and then display it on the screen, it all happens so much faster now that you don't have pauses. It goes practically straight from the hard drive to being on the screen because there's not a limitation stopping it from doing that anymore. And I think what's happening is you have people who have computers that like graphically can play this game, but because they have outdated hard drives or just slower solid state drives, they can't the game is expecting this stuff to be loaded faster and it's not happening. So it just lags and hangs up and you get these performance issues that people keep talking about. That's the only thing that I can figure. Because I don't have my computer's 3 years old now. It's not state of the art by any means. It wasn't state of the art when I built it, but it runs the game 60 FPS, all high settings by default, no frame drops.
Okay.
So it's not like a performance issue. It's not an optimization problem. It's just something weird happening, but it's widespread enough that it's not like some weird niche bug. It's pretty substantial. It's bizarre. But that seems to be what's attributing to the low review scores in general. You know, it is very much more Dark Souls. If you like Dark Souls, you'll probably like Elden Ring. If you don't like Dark Souls, you probably won't.
Darn, I've never actually played a Soulsborne.
No?
No, I think it's on my to-do list. Don't get me wrong. I do plan on playing one eventually. The problem is, I just never had like the opportunity to buy one, to be honest.
I don't think you would want to start with if you are somebody who wants to get into the Soulsborne genre, I don't think Elden Ring is the one to do it.
I definitely want to do Dark Souls first.
Yep.
Because that just seems like the best way to introduce myself to the mechanics.
Yep.
In the style. There's a lot of Dark Souls I do admire, like with the designs and just the freakiness of it all. I do think Soulsborns have some really cool art styles to them.
Mm-hmm. For sure. It's one of the cool things and with the sort of eldritch side of it, where there's lots of games that have like eldritch horrors, but that the charm of the Souls like is that you see these things and then you're told to go kill it.
Yeah.
And you know that you're expected to kill it. It's not like some games where it's like, oh, we'll do these fake boss fights where you're guaranteed to lose. No, you are expected to kill these things eventually. You have the tools. And that's part of the charm of it. What other game do you have where you come upon a room and there's like a dead god arising in front of you and your goal is you're being told to go kill it?
Yeah.
It's very novel.
Go kill it, son.
Go kill it.
Yeah.
And to that end, Elden Ring is not a bad game. It is just not if you're a first-time Souls player, this is the one you should get into kind of thing that a lot of people were pushing it as. It's just not that. That said, I am by no means a regular Dark Souls player. I've played some of Dark Souls 3 and a fair bit of Bloodborne. And I'm 20 hours into Elden Ring now. It's a good time. It's an enjoyable world to explore, So to that end, they did a good job, and it looks great.
I've heard many people call it Death of the Wild, just because it's like Breath of the Wild meets Dark Souls.
I really wouldn't call it that myself.
Okay.
It is very much a Dark Souls game first.
Interesting.
It just feels like it also happens to be open world. Like it's easy enough to imagine any of the Dark Souls games as more open world. And I feel like that's one of its weakest aspects, is that it is so open. There's not the usual feedback that players have come to expect that tells them whether or not they're doing the right thing. You know, you generally have some sort of a quest log that tells you whether or not what you're doing is the right thing to continue to progress the story or your own advancement of your character, and that's not there. You know, better or worse, you don't know if where you're going is the right way or not. You can, like I have, you can explore for literally dozens of hours and make basically no progress. And thankfully, it is a an interesting enough world that that is something that you can viably do and not be wasting your time. But like with any sort of medium, people are used to having placeholders and things to help them understand, feedback
Mm-hmm.
that they're doing the right thing. And it just doesn't have that. So the problem that I kind of backed myself into was that I'm making progress moving forward in the only measurement that I have for understanding if I'm doing the right thing or not. I'm physically exploring more of the world and overcoming the adversities that present themselves as I do it. But you get to a point, I got to a point at least, where I've explored a ton of the world, but because I don't have any feedback, I was kind of leveling my character wrong. Where I was leveling it and going in for stats on things that didn't actually end up mattering, to the point where you kind of get backed into a corner where, because you didn't have feedback along the way, you got pushed into the wrong direction. And then you have to backtrack a huge amount to try and get caught back up,
Mm-hmm.
which becomes harder than if you just had the feedback in the first place to be able to know what the hell you're supposed to do. That's my first impressions of it, anyways.
I have no impressions because I'm a dirty, dirty Switch player.
Mm-hmm. I did hear, God help anybody who can actually get their hands on a Steam Deck, but apparently day one, Elden Ring plays on the Steam Deck.
Yes, which is
pretty remarkable.
It's really impressive.
I actually have to step away for one sec. Be right back.
Okay. If that's the case, I will also share a fun story. Apparently, Gabe Newell, head of Steam, creator of the Steam Deck, Steam and Valve, is going around hand delivering some Steam Decks in Seattle and signing them, which is pretty cool. Gabe Newell is a really cool dude, if y'all didn't know that.
Okay, I'm back.
Cool.
Sorry about that.
I was just telling them about the fact that Gabe Newell hand delivered a couple Steam Decks in Seattle and signed them.
Oh yeah, that was really cool. I saw like the pictures of that on Twitter, but apparently there's some other aspect to it where these are like people who didn't actually like buy a Steam Deck or something like that. It was like people who reached out to Gabe Newell on their own or something like that. I don't know. I can't be bothered to look into it more, other than apparently Gabe Newell hand delivered signed Steam Decks, which is cool. The other big release this week is Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West.
Another game I know nothing about.
I was shocked to see that both of these have PlayStation 4 releases, both Elden Ring and Horizon.
I'm not so much surprised for Elden Ring because the PlayStation 4 is such a slow burn, right? PlayStation 5 is such a slow burn with distribution because of COVID.
Well, keep in mind, though, the last overhyped AAA game that we had come out on PlayStation 4 was Cyberpunk.
Ouch.
And it was not a last-gen game by any means.
You know what? Yeah, I stand corrected. You're right.
So, from everything I've heard, it seems to be running fine on all consoles. It's primarily a PC thing where there's been performance issues. Part of it being that it's locked to 60 FPS, which some people really don't like, understandably, but it definitely helps hide any sort of frame drops that people, performance issues that people might have been having otherwise, trying to run it at higher frame rates than that.
Hmm.
But Horizon Zero Dawn, uh, Metacritic is, I think, not nearly as good. 88. User scores are a lot higher because, it's console. But also, like, this is the second time that Horizon has had their game release, and it's been at the same time as a massive, overly hyped, like, long-awaited game. Because I'm pretty sure the last one released at the same time as Breath of the Wild, like the same week.
Yeah, I do feel like we are finally at the sequel to 2017 this year, because a lot of like projects that were released back then are now getting like their true follow-ups.
Yeah. Like Guerrilla Games is a super underrated developer, particularly on the PlayStation. I know a lot of people didn't like some of their past work. Cool. Killzone
Yeah,
I really enjoyed a lot of the Killzone games. Even some of the less popular ones were like the story didn't hold up. The technical aspect of it made it worth it. It was really cool just to see what they were capable of able to do with the limitations that they had. They did a really good job with it.
Yes.
Yep. So seeing them kind of get shafted again in exactly the same way, it's rough.
Very rough. Do we have anything else to report on?
Yes.
Yes.
I haven't seen I haven't played Destiny in a long time.
Okay.
But I do follow some of the people on okay, so that makes sense. I do follow some of the same streamers and content creators on YouTube just because they're amusing. But I have heard that the recent expansion for it, Witch Queen, is one of, if not the best expansions that Destiny franchise as a whole has had.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm
And
kind of
it's easy
shocked.
for people to kind of forget about Destiny
Yeah.
because it's not nearly as much in the public perception anymore, but it still regularly pulls down 6 and 7 figure user counts,
Oof.
particularly on new releases. It is there's a reason it's still the best looter shooter out there, not for lack of other companies trying.
You're not wrong.
Mm-hmm. Any Anthem gamers out in the chat?
I like Anthem. It's really good. Yeah. I think I think Anthem's better than Destiny. Just my opinion. Very unique.
I'm trying to remember if they closed the servers down for it or not yet.
I don't think they have yet.
I thought that they announced it, but I don't know.
I know it's definitely got a limited shelf life.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was bad. Basically unfinished.
That's right. We also did have Gen 9 get announced today.
Yeah, we did.
You sound so underwhelmed, and
I am. I'm kind of disappointed that it's happened so fast.
really, because it's been like a 3-year like transition period for like the last few gens.
No. When did Pokemon Legends Arceus release?
Are you implying that? I see what you mean.
They're made by the same company. Yeah, I am.
I don't know how they're managing to pull like 2 big games like that in 1 year.
So here's the thing. They're not.
Yeah.
They're cutting corners. They have massive crunch, just like every other video game company. But imagine if they like made one of the two instead of both of them.
True.
How much better it could have been.
Yes.
I don't know.
I do think the new starter Pokemon are fucking adorable.
Oh yeah, their starters all right.
Wow.
What's your favorite? Do you like the grass cat? Do you like the fire tomato? What about Duck?
I do like Donald Duck a lot.
Yeah, I bet you would.
Oh, what's that supposed to mean? Damn, I'm getting clowned on.
They're by no means the we have had much weaker starter lineups in recent history.
Yes.
Put it that way.
I'm also super fucking excited because it's Spain this time.
Mm, yep.
It's
Has that been confirmed? I know it's kind of implied, but I didn't know if it was confirmed or not.
So people are going over the trailer with a fine-tooth comb, and they found a
Yeah.
map of the Iberian Peninsula. So they're all pretty much saying, "Yeah, Iberian."
Mm. Yep, that makes sense.
Which, fun fact, I am part Iberian myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fucking take that, Kyril. Yo habla español?
Uh, no.
Sí. Yo no hablo.
And that's the extent of my Spanish.
I can read Spanish better than I can speak it.
I was listening to a song the other day, just going through the new songs that I had heard, and it song I had heard before had one of the sections of the lyrics in Spanish. And I was like hearing all of these Spanish words that I knew that I at one point knew, and like, oh shit, I should know what this is, but I don't at all. I don't know.
Get
It's
nay-nayed.
like, yes, those are words that I know. Couldn't tell you what they actually mean.
I've been trying real hard to get better at my Spanish, like understanding words when I hear them.
Mm-hmm.
But I can just read Spanish somewhat decently. Like,
Yeah.
probably at like a fifth grader level, if I had to guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, what other news have we had?
Have some movies.
Oh, damn. You watched a couple movies. That's right.
I did. We have some new movies though as well.
Oh, yes.
We'll do new movies first, and then we'll get into the Marvel bullshit.
Haha.
Um, three releases that I want to bring up this week. One is Studio 666.
Yes. The Foo
Yeah.
Fighters horror movie that I am.
Yeah.
I wasn't excited for it at first, but the more I see about it, the more I'm like, you know what? This is Willy's Wonderland 2021, 22. Let's fucking do it.
It gives me the same feeling as like the Pick of Destiny.
Yes.
It has the same vibe as like these are real people in a real band, but as of course fantasy things happening.
I mean, if any band was going to do it, it was going to be the Foo Fighters.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited. I
Yep.
personally like Dave Grohl, and I think he's a funny dude. So
He definitely is.
yeah,
It from what I've been saying here, like critically, it's not doing great. But if you just gonna want to go watch a not so good horror movie and laugh along at Dave Grohl being kind of silly, like I think that should be the expectation. I don't. There's not the bar for this movie is not particularly high. You
I was
know.
about to say, what are you expecting from non-actors
Yeah.
going to do a horror movie?
Right. Like lower your expectations. And speaking of, we got the next Bruce Willis movie.
No.
He just how many movies has he put out this year? Like over the last year. It is like remarkable his output.
If he was
You
good, I
know?
would dare say he's prophetic.
He has this is crazy. He has 3 movies in 2022 already.
That's some Tom Holland numbers.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He acted in 8 movies in 2021.
No.
8. Yes, 8. They all sucked. They were all so bad. His lowest rated is not available because he has multiple 0% movies. It can't pick one.
I just found out there's Studio 666 hedge clippers on the Foo Fighters website. That's still ridiculous with Bruce Willis. You need to stop.
I gotta skim this. How many does he have? I would bet he is probably the actor with the most sub 10% movies of all time.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Can you get 20?
Come on.
19.
Oh, give him a week.
19 movies with a score under 10% positive.
That's rough.
Wow. He has some movies with an audience score less than 10% positive. I didn't even know that was possible.
How does one get an audience to score a movie that low?
Ray survived the game. 14% for critics, 7% for audience.
I didn't realize there was a Bruce Willis film that had more critical merit that that audiences couldn't understand.
Mm-hmm. The only reason it has a non-zero critic score is because it has 7 critic reviews. One of them gave it an 8 out of 10. Every other one is a 1 or a 2 out of 5 or a rating of D. It's terrible.
I dig it.
It's great, isn't it?
No, it's terrible. It's sad and depressing, and I want him to stop. In the words of a once great man, Filthus Frank Filth, it's time to stop.
It really is.
What's he doing? Like, literally, who is making these movies with him?
He's just bouncing from B movie to B movie.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Will Bruce Willis ever... You think we can get him to do a movie on the Two Schmoes Show?
No, I guarantee he gets paid way more than you'd expect for these stupid things.
You're right. I just thought he wouldn't say no.
He was apparently in a not bad movie recently, so that's something.
It's not enough.
There's Willem Dafoe in it too. Motherless Brooklyn. Never heard of it.
Neither have I.
Came out in the gap between when we were not doing the show. But since then, since 2019, just one after another of just absolute shit.
Bruce Willis says, "You think the plague is bad? Wait till you see these movies."
I do wonder. Apparently, he was born in Germany, and I wouldn't have guessed that. I do wonder why he does. You know, like I can see picking up 1 or 2 shitty movies just to because you need a quick buck or something. But this many, it looks bad.
I'm sure it has something to do with taxes. I'm almost certain because studios make money off financial flops.
Then we have American Siege, which has 11 critic reviews, all negative, versus the audience score of 97%.
Oof.
Is this the one where it was bought? It must have been botted.
It has to be.
If you look at the actual written reviews. What? I think someone reviewed the wrong movie.
Are you certain?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Let
no.
me check here. They definitely did. They're mentioning characters from a completely different thing.
That's sad.
So yeah, bad movie. Probably don't want to go see that one. In possibly a good movie, though, we have Cyrano, a musical starring Peter Dinklage.
You got my attention.
And it actually makes sense for him. It legitimately makes sense for him to be the lead in it. Apparently, this is a timeless tale, whatever that means. This is not a new piece of work. It's an some sort of an adaptation. But a man ahead of his time, Cyrano de Bergerac, Cyrano de Bergerac, played by Peter Dinklage, dazzles whether with ferocious wordplay at a verbal joust or with brilliant swordplay in a duel. But convinced that his appearance renders him unworthy of the love of a devoted friend, the luminous Roxanne, Cyrano has yet to declare his feelings for her, and Roxanne has fallen in love at first sight with Christian. So, seems decent, you know? It's a pretty simple plot. You got very talented, but has some key flaw with him that he sees in himself. I guess the elephant in the room here would be Peter Dinklage's height, given the setting back in what looks to be like 1200, 1400, old,
Ooh, ooh,
old, when
yeah.
that was like an actual thing. Um, but I skimmed through some of the clips that they had before the show, and
Hmm.
it seems totally fine. It's a musical. Peter Dinklage can sing. That's cool. Good for him. I've not seen him sing before, but he definitely can.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me. He sounds like he has a good voice in general, so I can see that
Oh yeah.
translating well into song.
Yep.
Did you hear about like the people freaking out at Peter Dinklage because he got Disney to stop the live action Snow White reboot?
I had not. No.
Let me see what I can find for that. Let's see here. Peter Dinklage calls Disney's Snow White remake backwards. Let's see if I can find anything that specifically said that Disney was like, "Oh no, Peter Dinklage, stops being mean to us, bro." Oh God, it's gonna be
Is this the oh no, I don't know. I don't actually know that it's Snow White. I was thinking of Beauty and the Beast.
no, dude. It's gonna be directed by Mark Webb,
2023.
and Gal Gadot is going to be the evil queen.
I can see that, honestly. I think she'd do good with that.
I mean, how are you gonna have someone prettier than Gal Gadot? That's the problem.
Apparently you get Rachel Zegler.
Who the hell's that?
I don't know.
Oh,
Oh, West Side Story. The remake. Plays Maria.
oh, she is cute. I like her.
Yeah. No, I can get behind that.
Yo, West Side remake coming to Disney Plus. Watch it. I've decided that's
Is
the
it?
definitive
Okay.
version of West Side.
Yeah. I definitely plan to.
It is really good, and I'm glad I saw it in the theater.
Mhm. Andrew Burnap as Jonathan.
Who's Jonathan?
I don't know. Presumably a character in Snow White.
Oh, good. Nice. 10 out of 10. Thanks, Jonathan. You're going to make the story beautiful, darling.
Oh, I guess Jonathan is like the Prince Charming.
Oh, so they gave him a name finally.
Yeah,
About time we got some
presumably.
male representation where a himbo with no name is coming in to save the day.
Wait, what is this? On the Disney Wiki, Jonathan is the antagonistic gardener of King Leopold.
Okay, go on.
I don't know. I'm presuming it's a different Jonathan. Jonathan is an utter misogynist. He views women as harlots and gold diggers who would pounce at the chance to marry a man just for happy living. Cool.
I'd watch a
Good
movie
to
about
know,
that,
Disney
Jonathan.
Wiki. Well, you can watch a TV show.
Oh, it's a TV show? Damn.
Yeah, once upon a time.
I'm just saying, man, a petty gardener who's just there to ruin the king's hedges, I'd watch that. Ends with him getting, like, executed on a guillotine. Beautiful. Any other movies?
No,
No.
not for new releases.
Damn.
So now we get to talk about Marvel shit.
Yeah, Marvel shit. Dumb ape
Because
brain, go.
I have now seen both Eternals and Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
And I can, without a doubt, say that Eternals is far from the worst movie released last year by Marvel.
I agree. Especially
Black
after all
Widow
this.
is bad.
Go on.
Eternals has flaws and gets kind of boring, but yeah, could be a lot worse, turns out.
I mean, I stand by that Eternals is a perfectly functional movie.
Yeah,
And
absolutely is.
yeah, There's nothing wrong with Eternals per se. But I have not heard any good things about Black Widow.
Yeah. Black Widow had a lot of potential that just doesn't get realized. If Black Widow had, because it has a good screenplay, the ideas that it starts with could have been a lot better than it ended up being.
Yes.
But it just didn't end up actually going anywhere.
Very true.
So let me actually pull it up here. So I'm curious how they presented it versus now having seen it, what it actually is.
Okay.
Just in like the little blurb. Natasha Romanoff confronts the darker parts of her ledger when a dangerous conspiracy with ties to her past arises. Pursued by a force that will stop at nothing to bring her down, Natasha must deal with her history as a spy and the broken relationship left in her wake long before she became an Avenger. That is like partly true. The big problem that it has is that the character that's supposed to be like the villain, which is Taskmaster,
Mm-hmm.
is not nearly present enough or detailed enough to be compelling. It's like if you take any of the other traditional Marvel villains and like split them in half so that for um the case of Taskmaster, you have, or the villain, I guess, in this as a whole, you have Dreykov, who is the person who has started the Black Widow program and controls the widows, and Taskmaster, who is supposedly like his top agent cleaner, picks up all the pieces in the wake of the problems that they have. But there's this disconnect between Dreykov being the actual big bad and the voice of it, but physically completely inept and inadequate versus Taskmaster that actually does all the work but is a literal blank slate, which makes sense in the context of the story that they're telling, but makes for it to be really boring because the villain that you're actually seeing do the stuff has zero personality.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my dumb ape brain, this sounds a lot like Ant-Man and the Wasp syndrome.
It's been a while since I've seen that. Probably because that one was where it had the ghost girl, right?
Yeah, and then like she was just trying to get a cure for her disease, and there was like
Yep.
the other dude who was like, maybe we shouldn't do this, but let's do it anyway.
Yep. Like that, but even less personality.
Hmm.
Like by design. So the whole idea is that when Natasha got out of the Black Widow program and became a Shield agent,
Mm-hmm.
the way that she did that to like prove her loyalty was by blowing up a building that had both Dreykov and, incidentally, Dreykov's daughter in it.
Okay.
That's what she did to prove that she was not like a traitor, killer boss, basically. They assumed Dreykov was dead there. For whatever reason, they didn't actually go and confirm it, which becomes, given how professional, how they're portrayed as professionals, you would assume that that would be the thing that they would do. And there's a lot of bits like that come off as very out of character between like, wait, I thought these are supposed to be like the best of the best, and you're telling me that they just didn't check to make sure the guy was actually dead.
Yes.
What? um it ends up being that he's not dead, and they didn't end the Black Widow program by doing that. um and in fact, what ends up being the case is that his daughter who was with him there isn't it either. And oh, what do you know? The Taskmaster Big Bad is actually his daughter. And the what they allegedly they do is like they had to make the daughter like emotionless with some brain chip to like keep her alive, allegedly. But they don't really actually talk about that because then at the end of the movie, Dreykov is dead and they basically pull the chip out and she doesn't die. So maybe Dreykov is just like an asshole.
Interesting.
They don't really talk about it. And there's a lot of stuff like that where it's just like, wait, I thought it was X. It's like, oh no, it's actually not. Oh, okay. Oh wait, I thought that these people were supposed to be like the best of the best at this kind of thing, and they just didn't do this super obvious bit. Okay, cool. Good to know.
Don't think about it.
I do not recommend Black Widow.
Don't think about it.
And it definitely falls into the part where everybody who like saw that that's what they're planning on was just like, well, how does this tie into the larger Marvel world? Oh, it doesn't, because she's dead, and we all know she's dead. Oh, okay, cool. That doesn't change. She's still very dead. The characters that we know are basically not involved.
So it's a it's a movie that has no consequence whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nice.
And the new characters that they introduce, you don't really care about, because one of them you barely get to any time to know, and then the other two both kind of like deserve whatever comes to them because they're kind of just terrible people. So it's conflicting for sure. Eternals, on the other hand, though, does have some implications for future Marvel stuff.
This fucking Pip the Troll is in the MCU, and I will say, upset.
The only scrap of potentially something relevant in Black Widow is in the post-credit scene, where it is shown that Yelena is hunting down Hawkeye at the behest of the same person that has pulled the new Captain America guy from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Do you remember that?
I have not seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Okay, so that's kind of the problem with this. What we talked about is that for a long time they were like kind of good with keeping the shows and the movies separate. Yeah. But you kind of have to watch the shows now to get what the fuck's going on. In the very end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there's the new Captain America in it who becomes an actual super soldier and gets his ass kicked by Bucky and Falcon.
Yeah, U.S. agent.
Sam. Yep. So at the very end of it, he is talking with some character who we do not know her name, but she's like basically offering him a job to work for her instead. And that's just kind of where it ends. The same character approaches Yelena at the end of this when she is at Natasha's grave and gives her the job of going to go kill Clint. So this is clearly a character that they've now woven into the story that we don't actually know who she is, or they haven't told us who she is. I'm sure that the actual character itself is probably known, but to the casual viewer, we don't know what the character is, what their motivations are, but they seem to be less than good.
It sounds like they're setting up the Thunderbolts, but I can't be certain about that.
Let me see if they have her named. That would be a pretty good giveaway.
That's what I'm looking for.
Cast. Oh man, why don't they have the cast like with pictures? That would be so much more helpful.
Because they don't want to give away spoilers, duh.
No, I don't care who's the Chancellor of Germany. Goal.
Wow, those reviews for each episode really were mixed.
Valentina Allegra de la Fontaine.
De la Fontaine, I do know that name. I don't know why I know that name,
right,
but I know it.
In Falcon, she introduces herself as Val.
Okay.
I don't know who that is. Let's search Google for name.
We're in the Marvel shit. I don't know.
La Contessa Valentina Allegra de la Fontaine is a fictional character appearing in in American comic books published by Marvel Comics.
Neat.
That's all it says. That tells me nothing. Earth 616 Marvel database. Tell me what I need to know. Little has been revealed about the past of
I suspect there's something wrong here.
Name is unknown. Interesting. So maybe this is more of a recent character that they're actually like doing something with.
It has to be.
But no, first appeared 1967.
Feige, why you do this to me?
Okay. She and her parents were sleeper agents for Leviathan inside the Italian anti-communist movement. Unaware of this, Dugan recruited her, formerly a member of the European jet set. The Contessa sought a more serious role in life and eventually entered a training program to become an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. First encountered Nick Fury toward the end of her training when she impressed him by overpowering him in hand-to-hand combat. As a result of her remarkable talents and skills, Contessa soon became a leading member of S.H.I.E.L.D. Her first major assignment was participation in the battles against the robotic duplicate of the Yellow Claw. What?
Yes, of course. Why didn't I think of that?
Nick Fury and Valentina became lovers after his relationship with Laura Brown appeared to end. Okay.
That sounds like
Eventually
Nick Fury.
moved in with Nick.
Yeah, that sounds like classic Nick Fury.
Apparently, she flirted with sometime S.H.I.E.L.D. operative Captain America.
Nice. 10 out of 10.
So, ex-S.H.I.E.L.D. agent doing some stuff.
I like doing stuff.
Mm-hmm. Contessa secretly joined Hydra, taking the identity of Madam Hydra. Manipulated Hydra into taking a powerful artifact simply called the Box from the Silver Samurai. Then betrayed Hydra to the shadowy Leviathan. What the fuck is Leviathan? Okay, I'm opening another tab because I don't know what the hell that is. Is it like Hydra, but we're actually different?
I'm trying to remember.
Former KGB officers. So Hydra, but Russia.
Yeah, Soviet Hydra.
Cool.
Oh wow, they're actually kind of recent.
Yeah. Later became a member of the secret council known as Janus, which used Norman Osborn to gain a behind-the-scenes control of the rebuilt. Man, this is where like most people just like don't give a shit about this kind of stuff, right?
I mean, I told you this is the Marvel stuff I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very honest, I like some of the spots they're going with the MCU, but they're also flying a little too close to the sun with how many deep cuts they're referencing.
When she was S.H.I.E.L.D. Deputy Director, Valentina was Agent Security Level 9 and was granted clearance Level 10 Agent in the preparation for the Secret War.
Which one?
So, yeah.
There's multiple Secret Wars.
Presumably the first? I don't know.
I doubt it, because that was beyond... I don't know. I don't want to nerd out too hard.
Okay, this is the 2004-2005 Secret War.
Okay. That's the one I don't know too much about.
Yeah. So maybe it's building up to that.
I do think they are building up Secret Wars, but they're not building up the 2005 one.
Yeah.
They're doing the 2015 one, which is probably the best one. Probably like one of the best Marvel events ever. Because that one was basically an overly elaborate Fantastic Four story, and I can get down with that.
Yep. So yeah, Black Widow, not good. Eternals, kind of boring, but overall fine. If you want to see a Marvel movie not in theaters, give it a week and watch Spider-Man.
Ouch.
Like it is just better. It's just better. It's not really close.
Shang-Chi is also an acceptable alternative at the moment.
Absolutely, I forgot about that. Like of what you can watch today, of the new stuff, Shang-Chi is definitely the best.
Yes.
I'd forgotten that released this year. Last year. Yep.
Now we wait for Doctor Strange.
Yep. For sure. When does that come out? That's relatively soon, isn't it?
It's like May.
Doctor Strange, May 4th. Stepping on Disney's toes, I see. Well, I guess it's all Disney.
It,
Stepping on the other department within their company's toes.
there you go. What are you talking about?
Star Wars. May the 4th be with you.
Oh yeah. Maybe that's a multiverse they'll find.
God, I hope not.
That's apparently like the one big rule at Marvel Studios. No Star
Holy
Wars.
shit. 2022 is shaping up to be a way bigger year than 2021 was.
Why?
Because so 2021 we had Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and Eternals, and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
With Spider-Man kind of being like the big one of them. 2022, we're getting Doctor Strange, Thor, and Black Panther.
I forget Black Panther 2 was coming out.
Thor has a release date of July 8th and Black Panther of November 11th. So that leaves them room for a big Christmas release still, because that's the same pattern that they've been doing for a while.
Remember when we got like only one Marvel movie a year?
Right?
So strange.
No, I don't actually.
You
It's
don't?
been so long. No, I
No.
do, but it's
Yeah.
been a while.
Those were the good days when we don't have
Oh,
to.
the Batman releases next week.
Oh shit! I forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of anticipating that to be quite good. I'm
I'm
looking
yeah.
forward to it.
So I have a lot of hype for this movie because I just think it's a really cool
Yeah.
direction. Um,
I very much don't because of how bad the last DC movies have been.
Joker was good.
I am yet to be certain if that was a change or just an exception.
Okay, okay. Here's my thing, right? Um, as long as it's not directly related to the DCEU, I have hope
Yes,
for it
I think that's agreeable.
because Joker wasn't directly related to it. This doesn't
Yep.
look directly related to it, but I don't know what's going to happen.
I'm very excited to see how Jeffrey Wright does as Gordon, as Officer Gordon.
Yes, because this looks like the nittier like. There's a type of Batman story I really like. When Batman is more of a crime noir
Yep.
with superpowers. This looks like a Batman that is crime noir with superpowers. I
That
don't.
is kind of, I hope it is, but
Yeah,
some of the trailers have kind of made me doubt that with the big action stuff.
really.
Yeah. Like, I want that to be the case. I'm just not sure if it will be.
That's fair. I also think Robert Pattinson is a very interesting Bruce Wayne and Batman combo.
Yeah.
So
For a younger Batman, it makes a lot of sense.
yes, I agree. Um, not saying I didn't like Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton, I didn't think he even get a shot at being Batman. He was just there as Batman.
Yeah.
Not Michael Keaton. Fucking Affleck. Ben
Yeah,
Affleck.
Affleck.
Yeah.
Honestly, of like, there's not really been, with the exception of maybe George Clooney, there's not been a bad Batman
Yeah. I
in
agree.
terms of the actor selection.
Yes.
Like, I know that there are some legitimate criticisms of Affleck's Batman, but none of that was the fault of Affleck himself.
No. There's a difference between being written wrong and being acted wrong.
Yep. There's a lot to be hyped for with this one for sure. I'm trying to temper it though, but having Catwoman, Selena Kyle, very cool. Colin Farrell as Penguin should be really good.
I like Zodiac Killer Riddler.
Yep. Yep. It's cool. I like the kind of I do really like how I'm hopeful it's the same universe, I guess you could say, as Joker was. It definitely seems to be that way with the cars that they've shown.
Hmm.
How the Batmobile looks very much like a 70s or 80s like Charger over a modern car.
Yes.
So I definitely hope that that's the case.
I wouldn't be
But
against the idea of an older Joker and a younger Batman.
Mhm.
That's a cool dynamic. Um, I had a dream about this movie the other day.
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard to remember it because I remember just thinking like, wow, this is not the movie I expected it to be. Because like, if I remember right, it was like more of a crime noir Batman movie, but then like partial way through it, um, they fucking just decide to start making fun of Marvel characters by having a guy trying to be Spider-Man, and like
Hmm.
web swing off a skyscraper and just like fall flat on his face. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yep.
Anything else before we wrap up today?
Not so much. I was just skimming what the other parts of the Phase 4 are going to be here for Marvel.
Oh yeah, Phase 4 is almost over, isn't that right?
No, no, it's just started.
Oh fuck.
So we are at just finished Spider-Man. We have Doctor Strange, Thor, Black Panther, The Marvels, Guardians 3, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, TBA Fantastic Four, TBA Blade movie.
I wouldn't be against them like doing Fantastic Four last just because it's kind of a fun pun.
Blade is an interesting choice to bring back into it.
Why do you say that?
It just seems tonally because we had Blade movies already, didn't we?
Yeah, like back in the day.
Yeah, late 90s.
Yeah.
It just tonally seems very different than what the current Marvel stuff has been going for.
Blade is like in a weird world in the Marvel pantheon where he's like the darker, not like darker in like the more mature sense, but like occult stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, like Ghost Rider and whatnot.
Yep. Yep.
I like Blade. Blade's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To be clear, I don't dislike it. It just seems like it's not the direction that I would have expected them to end Phase 4 on.
Yeah.
I would have expected it to be like something like Guardians 3 to cap it off, you know?
Da, 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 da.
I think that's about it, though.
Okay.
Pokemon Company is based, and Pip Lupstep is unironically pretty good.
What's that?
The video I sent you.
Oh yeah, the dance.
Yeah.
Yeah, world's highest
It's good.
grossing media
It's
company
fun.
for a very good reason.
Yeah.
Now, if only the games could have a little more polish.
Right.
Anyway, I mean,
Maybe Microsoft will buy Game Freak.
God, you know they would. Nintendo would have a
No, Nintendo
seizure.
never would.
Yeah. I'm Eve Mr. Ryan. I've been
Funny
a
though.
Schmo,
I'm Garland. I've been a Schmo.
and I eagerly await the Microsoft acquisition of Game Freak.